Here we are with map 3 of the series. It looks like it's going to be on Samoa. Another control map. It's interesting not to see a payload map here at all. It may just possibly be because of the bias of the host of the session, who I think is Max. Payload hater for good reason, but he also likes a map like Samoa, which I think a lot of people don't really enjoy all that much, especially me. I am not a Samoa enjoyer. It can just feel too... I'm not sure. It just feels like teams don't really know how to play coordinated, especially in this, on like, oh, you know what? I couldn't tell you the names of each of the stages of this map. I'm not gonna lie. Great commentator over here. We're just in a bit of downtime here. I think they might be in a group call together trying to figure out, okay, we do have a map switch. It looks like whoever didn't pick the map is now fighting back against the Samoa idea. And we're going to Gibraltar. I think, in my opinion, a better map, despite it being a payload map. But, you know, Gibraltar is a very studied map. Released with the game, as far as I'm aware, at the beginning of Overwatch 1. So people know how to play this. Obviously, did get an update in a recent season with the Talon attack on Overwatch. But, you know, it's still relatively the same. A couple more openings, a couple more high grounds, a couple less high grounds in other places. Really, that second point makes the difference. Being able to attack that high ground, that ship, so very easily for the attacking team, right? And now we'll see if there's rebands here. Probably should be. Let's just check. Caster typing in match chat maybe never happens. But to be fair, they're all talking together. I'm not. So, I got nowhere knowing. It looks like there's no new redraft, though. This is just going to be a map 3 for this series. I think it's 1... Yeah, it's 1-1 here because Junkertown went very, very far in Blue's favor. And then map 2 on Ilios. Obviously, Blue were able to find 1 on Ruins, but it's that dive dominance from Red Team that really locked down that match for them. Despite some mistakes being made. I can imagine there being more thorough bans. Okay, it's the same ban list, which means Fatboy, Daniel the Dang, is going to be able to... Oh, never mind. It's a Venture Doom ban out of Blue and an Ana Ram ban out of Red. These are just... players' very strong picks. Makes sense. Tor is dominant on the Ram when he gets to play it. Luckily for Tor, this isn't really a Ram map anyway. He might pull it. He was maybe going to pull out Sigma here anyway. Maybe Winston, maybe Diva. We'll see. Obviously not going to play Ram here now that it's banned. It's probably going to be a Wu Yang pick out of Swanky Pants, Nick Brown. Obviously very strong on that character other than Ana. We do see some great sleeps out of Nick on Ana, and that really solidifies himself as maybe the best Ana player in the what I call this tournament, game, match, something. You know, some really great sleeps, but obviously not going to be able to do them this match. No, okay, yeah. So with a Ram ban and it being a very high ground oriented map, we're going to see Swanky Pants Nick Brownie on Winston, my favorite hero. And we'll see how he goes. So we're going to see Tor on Kiri. This is a very good, like a high level support comp here out of Kiri Lucio. Kurt on Genji is something I've never expected or have never seen before. And Elijah on Shion. Seb's on Zen. Very hit or miss playmaking from Zen. from Seb on Zen in the past, historically, sometimes does very well, sometimes can shit the bed. But that's also a lot of players. Ripley's here on his tried-true Pharah, has realized that maybe Freya won't work, especially after losing a game on Pharah so convincingly on Junkertown. Seb immediately finds Kurt. Kurt maybe just doesn't know how to play Genji. Can't really do it right. Was just trying it for fun mostly. Daniel's on his other good hero, is on Genji here. We'll see how that goes. Nick just finds Ripley, he's too pushed up, he gets poked out and dies to the Winston. Okay, Max is pushed really, really far in on Sigma. It's just gonna get shut down here. I can kind of see where he was going with that, but just not really coordinated very well, especially after the rest of his team got picked out early. Ripley. Anyway, Kurt manages to find one on the Genji here, finds two on the Genji. Ripley is left on one tab, doesn't die, he gets way back into spawn, but both their supports are dead here to the Genji pick. Daniel on Genji manages to trade back Elijah, but it's so deep that it doesn't matter. So Kurt is very unmarked here. He's just going to jump straight into the backline and die to a Zen headshot. This is the kind of playmaking that I expected to see from Kurt on Genji. Pretty much nothing happening. They are going to find Lucio caught out with that, especially with that Sigma rock. It's just going to be a very easy pick. But Sigma dropping here is really bad for the red team. It just leaves him so open to a multitude of attacks from the blue team. Is dead, but they managed to trade out Winston Brownie almost immediately. There's a 1v1 happening between Genji and Shion in the underneath. Elijah manages to win that on the Shion, but Red still take the objective here, especially down their tank. Down both tanks, but up in a DPS, I think they were. I can't remember. How good am I? Blue are just going to take this high ground, try and find an early fight here to pick them while unknown. Elijah's going to go here with Shion ult. Kurt manages to clean up Genji. Max just picks out Lucio to maybe even it up. Tor finds Zen though. This is a 2v4 here on blue team's favor, and Red are going to realize that they can't really fight this and leave. But neither can blue, to be honest. They commit too much and they die. Blue here are just really looking for the stragglers coming back to the fight to be able to pick. Kind of letting the Sigma go, but this Lucio, Matthew's Lucio, is just far too self-absorbed almost. Is really not realizing that he has to play with the team here to be effective, especially into a Sigma Zenyatta Juno. Is really just going to find nothing and die. Blue team loses support for almost no reason. But Kurt comes out here with an instant kill from the Dragon Blade onto Zenyatta, opening up the fight, and then the rest of blue team jump in and really close this off very confidently, despite the early pick from the Lucio, especially after he comes back. But red team are going to trade out a lot, but Ripley is going to kill himself to get to find that trade. But red team do have spawn advantage here, so they are going to start coming back almost immediately. Max on Sigma here is really just playing very confidently, very aggressively, trying to walk down to objective as quick as possible. Nick on Winston is really playing his range well here, is not letting himself get caught out, is not being too overconfident. There is a really, somehow it's working actually. Daniel pops that Dragon Blade, manages to find Elijah, is not shut down. Tor just shuts down that barrage almost instantly. Blue now here a primal rage out of Winston just to stay alive, shut down this fight completely. A Zen ult too late out of Seb here really secures this. Red realize that they just don't have the numbers nor the position to fight this even through a Zen ult because of that primal rage especially. But Nick gets too angry, dives in and dies. Just too overconfident here on the Winston. That can really do that to you, especially after a primal rage. You can feel invincible, but remember, your health is back to normal after that ult ends, and he dies very easily. So Red are able to just take that advantage from that tank pick and roll with it to secure the objective. Blue here are looking to lock down this space, but this is much more open, much more in a Sigma's favor, this part of the objective. This Winston doesn't really have a lot of options to kind of poke this out, but Daniel here on Genji is able to Kurt, I might say, on the other Genji and find that pick. Meaningful for red team. Now he's going to take this top bridge, really take this space that they've been awarded by that Sigma ult that didn't find anything, but at least, as I said, gave red more space to push up. Blue are just forced to walk even further back. With this Kiri ult, they're really going to try something, but the Juno ult and just the complete shutdown on Nick here on the Winston really just completely puts a cog in the wrench, ruins the fight, mostly. Matthew is just fighting how he can here. Probably should have just walked back. Nick here on Winston is going to dive to the point and try and make something work. A good Zen ult this time from Seb. Red are able to find their prey through that Zen ult after Elijah finds one pick with his Shion ult. I don't even know what it's called anymore. And then a Genji ult to close out the round. It looked good there for Blue on the first point. Red were making a lot of very over-aggressive, ballsy plays, especially out of that Sigma and the Genji. But they quickly are able to really remedy that playstyle. They're able to realize that they are the reason why their team is disconnected. Really too far in, dropping too many high grounds, just pushing fights that are unwinnable. And you know, they shut that off. They shut off that that kind of overactive, over-aggressive solo play, focus play, like you know, play style, and you know, they bring the match back relatively easily. We can see some errors here from Blue Team, especially I think the tank, Nickel the tank, makes some good plays, especially in the neutral. He's able to really like control the battle at the beginning of a fight. A skill that a lot of tanks don't have, but what he can't do is close a fight alive, unfortunately. He has died a lot late, and it's given red team a really good counter push. Blue team just need to look for much less late kills. The spawn trap finds Winston here. Obviously not really the target they want from that. There's a trap up here on the bridge, which they really like to go to. Winston is trapped once again, bubbles that to take away the damage, but now can't really engage for another 10 seconds without his bubble, especially. No way to follow up, except he goes in anyway, especially without the bubble, dies for it though. He saw that Juno really low and decided to go for it without his bubble. Got the kill that paid the consequence, and now Blue are stuck here without a tank. They really don't know what to do. Matthew was going to push the card, but realized he will probably die if he tried, so he's left. They get a bit of distance from that play, but not more than they would have if they all stayed alive. We can see Daniel here. He's off the Genji for a more defensive focused hero on Junkrat. He's going to see if he can just try and lock down these angles that Blue really want to take, and Nick has decided that Winston is not going to work into Sigma, Bastion, Junkrat, Zenyatta, maybe the most evil comp I've seen into a Winston, especially with that Discord Orb and so much burst damage. Kurt is going to find a miracle kill onto the Bastion there, and Elijah's going to find that low HP Juno there with the Dynamite. Nick and Matthew in the backline looking to 2v1 the tank here. The red team have realized the space that they took and are coming back to remedy this. There's a trade between Elijah and Daniel. Unfortunately, Matthew finds himself dead to the Junkrat bombs, the martyrdom, which really means that, especially without his support, Nick is stuck dead in the backline. And that fight is closed out for red with those late picks onto Elijah. He just couldn't get out in time to save his life. Ripley is back onto the Pharah here, has given up the Bastion, possibly to look at countering this Genji and Malga more to try and give himself the space that he needs to play into that matchup. Kurt is up here on this high ground looking for some poke, and this Sigma and Malga are really facing it down on the high ground. Really good, well-placed Sigma ult from Matthew. Manages to find one. Elijah gets dropped to the low ground and is now completely disconnected from the fight, while Daniel manages to find a pick onto Kurt, getting overzealous, pushing into a Junkrat. Never do that on Genji. You won't like what happens. Unless, well, actually no, it's pretty 50-50 to be honest. Daniel here has a really favorable off angle onto blue here on their push. He's not getting shut down here. Just has the space. He decides to leave it for some reason. It would have been a really good place to hold, but blue with this beat have really taken control of the map. But a Junkrat ult out of here manages to find Elijah, but Kurt with a Dragon Blade and the rest of their team on the objective managed to find 4 kills here. The barrage out of Ripley is a desperation play to try and hold on to this fight. It doesn't work. Is shut down very quickly. Manages to find 1 though, and then Daniel is the last to die on Junkrat. Blue team are now just going to look for this neutral. They're going to try and push that. Matthew lives against the duel with the Sigma. Really good for their push. And Elijah finds Maya somehow. Matthew's trapped on the point, but it's Juno that finds the... Oh, I didn't even realize this swap up towards off Kiriko in favor for taking the Lucio from Matthew, and Matthew is now on Juno. Maybe that's why we haven't seen as many back plays out of the Lucio, I'm gonna be honest. Matthew here is getting really hard poked out by this Junkrat here. Manages to live, just finds his cover, but this Malga is quite far in. His Cardiac Overdrive completely locked down by the shield and the grasp out of the Sigma. A very well-placed Bob is rocked out, but is still just going to find all of this space here, is going to kill the Junkrat. This Tracer in the back lane. The Junkrat still manages to find 2 though, before dying to the Bob. Both the supports, really, really good picks, which means that their advantage from the Bob is completely taken away. Great plays out of Daniel there on the Junkrat, despite dying. Is really managed to help hold this fight down for longer for red. The blue are now back. They're on this high ground and they're looking for picks. Kurt is playing very far in, looking for a really dominant play here. Doesn't find anything. Ripley and Daniel are just gonna find their picks. They are owed. Cage fight from Malga manages to find 2 to partially equalize it until Daniel on Junkrat just comes back, kills another 2 just for the fun of it, and really pushes this fight in Red's favor. And after they win almost immediately after that, not pushing the fight into favor, but more just winning it. I don't know why I'm discrediting that play. And now blue here are on the comeback. They are trying the Winston again. Maybe to take more advantage of this high ground that the Malga really couldn't use. You know, use this map space that is all... Use this space that's all over the map, and maybe to shut down this Junkrat, who is really just ruining Blue's game here. But this Sigma is really just sitting right in front. Ripley hits a good pulse bomb onto this Sojourn. Nick finds Kiriko in the backline, but Ripley just finds another onto the Genji. Juno ult meet on the objective. A well-placed Sigma ult manages to find both supports. He's able to finish off the Juno there with that damage from that ult. Nick dies. He's just caught inside Red's Juno ult and is not able to do anything. Once again, a fight win here for Red. This is really just so much burst damage and no way to remedy it for Blue team. They are dying very quick to the Sigma here. Daniel manages to find Juno again. These are some very powerful picks. Once again, Nick finds Kiriko on the backline, but he's just too far gone from the rest of the team to prevent Red from just walking over his backline. Winston, a earnest pick, but maybe not the right one, and that is how the game ends in the middle of second for Red. This is now 2-1 for Red. And, you know, to Blue's best efforts, they haven't really been able to make anything happen here. I think really their MVP is Daniel on the Junkrat, was just never shut down and managed to get a million bajillion kills every single fight. Yeah, and you know, that's just really it. You know, like on this map, that Junkrat, without being shut down, without a team coordination from Blue to shut down their burst damage instead of going for their support in the back lane, has really just led them to lose to that burst damage. You know, it's you know, it's earnest playmaking from Blue, but just not enough to overpower that Junkrat Sigma in the front line. That's how the game ends. 2-1 towards red team here. Daniel and Max feeling really good. They've put up some great performances this game on that Doomfist, on that Junkrat, on the Genji, especially on that attack. It was good. Made a lot of things, made a lot of plays, made a lot of things happen. But really that MVP of that attack was the Sigma. And then Daniel just closing out that defense so confidently on the Junkrat. And, you know, Daniel on Doomfist the past couple games as well, or the past game, was really good. Tried his hardest and really put up a great performance to win that map there. But obviously bans were like not really considered for the second match. And so that led to those comps being played, but they don't know the demon that is inside these players. And they just can't close that game. So yeah, once again, 2-1 to red. We'll see if this series goes on, but if it ends here, that's a confident win for red team here. And that would be it.